So we've come this far, and as promised, actually, basically numbers 5 through 7 on 221, we end up basically throwing away the work that we just did and doing a complete rehaul on this. And the reason is the rehaul not so much on our processing, but on our exception handling. As I said, I don't know why it's taking so large running it. Right, okay, so I'm going to run it 112, and okay, right now I hit enter. It says a format error occurred. Check my entries. Well, that's great when there's 3, but what's going to happen if there's 100 or something? And it's pretty crappy. We'd like to actually have somewhat personalized error messages. If someone basically puts in non-decimal values for any of these, or if someone if something's out of range, maybe try and stop an overflow from happening, although we could just code it for the overflow. And so that's kind of what we're going to do here. We're going to make our error processing a little bit more dynamic. Now, to do this and to do this properly, we're going to create a couple of, well, basically 3 in the solutions, 3 validation methods, and their whole purpose is just to basically validate something. All right, and so the first one we're going to look at is an is decimal. We're going to basically say, is this thing that you're passing in a decimal? So let's go down and make some room, and I'm going to put it over just after the calculate future value, and I'm going to make myself a private member. The member is going to return a string, which is ultimately going to become the error message that comes out of this method. All right, so it's going to be a string. I'm going to call it is decimal. I can call it whatever I want. I'm going to call it is decimal. It's going to pass in a string, not a string, a string, which is the value of, oh my goodness, man. It's a value of the text coming in, and it's going to pass in the name of the field that is being tested. I'm going to make it dynamic so that I don't have my design view. Is my design view here? All right, I don't have my design view open, and review designer. No, was that a bad move? No, it wasn't a bad move. Okay, so when this thing is a decimal, it's going to tell me that monthly investment is the thing that's not decimal. When this is not decimal, it's going to, or integer or whatever, probably not sure which ones I'm going to test it on yet. But anyway, I wanted to know the field. I'm going to pass it in. All right. So that's going to be my second thing. It's going to be basically the name of the field. All right. So how are we going to build the error message? Now it says, is that, why are you mad at me? Is decimal. Do I have an is decimal in here? Did I leave something? What are you doing? Oh, okay. You know what's interesting? It's already mad at me now because it's saying, look, you created a function that returns a string, but there's no string. So let's just, at this point, get it just so it stopped bugging me on this one. I'm going to basically say, hey, can you return a string? And now, there you go. Okay. Now it's just mad at me because it's not being used, and that's fine. All right. So let's go back up here. Boy, nothing is being nagged right away before you even start. So I'm going to create myself something that I'm going to be called the error message. Okay. It's the error message, which initially I'm going to assume it's got nothing in it. All right. And so now I'm going to get a little bit cooler with this. I'm going to basically, instead of returning nothing, I'm going to return that string. Okay, stop with the, there. I forgot my assignment operator. All right, good deal. Okay, so I got myself an error message variable. It's got nothing in it. Null is how we'd say that normally. And now I'm going to return the error message. So now I just got to basically say, okay, if this thing isn't a decimal, say something about it. Well, there is actually a guy out there that we've kind of had some experience with. In the decimal object, there's that thing called try parse, which was loosely brought up. I can't even remember how long ago it was, but it was loosely brought up. And I'm going to basically pass in the value that's coming right from up here. So whatever someone passes in, I'm going to pass in the value. And I don't really care what comes out. So what's going out, I just don't care about it. All right, so I'd like you to try parsing. Now, if this is successful, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for it basically being not successful. If that's an exclamation, if you can't see that. So if you're not successful at doing this, just simply convert it, parsing it. If you're not successful parsing it, then the error message basically becomes the name of whatever I'm passing in must be a valid decimal. Okay, so if you're not successful, the error message has got to be must be a valid decimal. So now the only thing it's mad at is that this thing isn't being used. Let's oh, we're still debugging for some reason. Let's go ahead and build it. Awesome, and let's go ahead and run it. It's not going to do anything, right? Because I'm never calling it, but you know, always good to basically make sure I haven't screwed anything up. So there is decimal. Now, where would you likely use it? Well, way at the top here, when we're getting our information, maybe before we try to convert it, we should consider validating the data. So I'm going to go validate data, and then this will be processing. Those of you that remember from my Python era, what I would do many times is I'd go input, processing, output. So we're kind of in the input section here. So I'm going to validate this thing. And so now remember, what is it looking for? It is looking for me to pass in, and it's going to pass out a string. So I'm going to basically create myself a string over here. This will be throwaway code. So I'm going to go basically test message. Okay, test message is assigned is decimal. Thank goodness it remembers it. What's the decimal? This, I'm going to pass in that. I'm going to pass in the text of that text box. And I'm going to basically say, pass in a string called monthly investment. Okay. Semicolon. All right, where's your too many characters in character literal? Oh my goodness. Too many languages, not enough neurons. All right, let's do that, and let's do that. Having a sneaky suspicion, by the way. Am I recording? Please say that I'm recording. Good, I'm recording. All right, cool. So now we're going to run it. It's not really going to do anything yet. I just want to basically make sure that the code has got a nice successful run through. Okay, so I got 100, 12, and 1, and there you go. Good deal. All right, so now, how do I know what's in the test message if I actually have an error? Well, for now, let's just do a straight message box, and pass in the test message. Right, so good or bad, doesn't really matter. Oh, again, it's not message box. Message box is the object. I want the method of show. I don't know how many times I'm going to make that mistake. I'm going to run it again. All right, so this will be interesting because you know what? There is no error. So of course there's nothing in the error message. If I go ABC, monthly investment must be a valid decimal. All right. So cool, and now the thing itself just craps out. So we got ourselves sort of our first kind of hint as to what we're going to do here. We're going to validate the is decimal. All right, I'm sorry, validate that one. And I think I'm going to have a quick peek at the solution, but I bet you we're doing that in the yearly interest rate and number of years. No, just the the interest rate apparently. Yeah, okay, interest rate. So I may as well call it again then. Let's have some fun. Let's call it again. So I'm going to take this dude, I'm going to go copy, I'm going to go and paste. And this one is going to call in the interest rate.txt. I'm going to go copy, I'm going to go paste. This is called interest rate. For the first time in this course, by the way, we're now using the same code in two different times. That's pretty cool. All right. Okay, I don't have to define string. I don't have to define the test message again. So now I'm going to go run. And again, let's make sure that we're still successful. And we are. Notice that was 2 now. I'm going to go ABC, monthly, but the interest is fine. And then it just blew up. And let's go here, ABC. Monthly interest, monthly investment's got to be a valid decimal. Interest rate must be a valid decimal. Awesome, good. And then we get just a standard blow up. Awesome, good deal. We got that going. And then the next thing is we were supposed to look at is the range. We got to make sure that this thing can handle the range. Oh no, excuse me. We got to also make sure we got to test our year. We got to test our year. So our year isn't being converted to a decimal, it's being converted to an integer. So let's go and create that one. All right, so we're going to go create that one. It's not, that one's not going to be rocket science. It's going to be the same kind of thing. In fact, it's going to be so similar, we can probably do a copy paste. So let's do a copy paste. Go copy, let's go paste. This one's going to be called is, not is decimal, but is int 32. Right, we're still taking the string, still taking the 2 strings. We're going to try parse, but we're not going to use the decimal. We're going to use int 32. Okay, so int 32 and must be a valid integer. Programmers are naturally lazy, so this is a very quick way for me to type. And again, it's mad at me because there's no references here, but up here, what I can do is grab this guy, copy, and go paste. And so now I'm going to go is int 32, and I'm going to pass in the interest. Oh, I probably want a text years is what I want for that, text years. All right, so I'm right now. So we got 3 things coming in: the monthly investment, the interest rate, and that monthly investment, interest rate, and that. Oh man, I blew that. I blew it. I knew it. The int 32 is, yeah, that is interest rate. That is interest rate. Interest rate is decimal. It's the years, Grant. Okay, holy smokes. Okay, well, you know what though? All right, let me take a moment to get my brain right. This is actually the years. The years is what I need to be right. Interest rate is what I need to be decimal, and I'll just go ahead and grab it. All right, I'm okay with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to run it. Let's have a successful pass through the data. So 112 and 1, 1, 2, 3, and nothing's wrong with it. ABC, ABC, ABC. And so the monthly investment's got to be decimal. Years has got to be a valid integer. And interest rates got to be decimal. Sure. And I guess the only other thing, by the way, is that probably just make these errors fly off in the order that the data is entered. Okay, so pretty cool. Yeah, okay, so I got myself my little validations. There is one little error still out there, but I'm like, that's a logic error, and that's kind of throwing me for a second, but we're gonna fix that. That basically was the whole point. Number 5 was to basically create these validations. Then what we do want, though, is we want to have a valid data method. We want to have a valid data method to basically do all this stuff outside of our click event. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do that fabulous refactor thing. In fact, I'm going to grab the whole thing. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to not right click, it's control period in this interface. I'm going to extract that method. This one's going to be called validate. What's the thing up here saying? It's saying is valid data. Is valid data. Okay, so is valid data. Yep, that's fair. Is valid data, and then this guy just goes down here, and this guy goes here. So is valid data, and then down here we've got is valid data. Okay, cool. Now, this is just going to, it's going to do the same thing. Oh, I'm going to run here. So I'm going to run it, and let's just make sure that nothing's busted. ABC, 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 that. All right, awesome. Right, so is valid data. What I want to do now is I basically want this to be a Boolean. So if it's valid, go ahead and do the rest of the processing. If not, then blow up. And I think that's pretty close to what this solution is trying to do. Yeah. Right. All right. Yeah. I think it's great. All right. So first thing I got to do is I got to have this thing return a Boolean. Second thing I got to do is make sure this thing's actually going to return a Boolean. So now it's mad at me. See that? So I'm going to go return. And I'm going to basically say, I'm going to create myself a quick little variable, which I can't remember what they called it, but I'm going to basically say at this point, valid data, which is, oops, can't just make crap up. You got to go with the Boolean. So there's a Boolean. This guy is going to be assigned true. I'm going to assume that everything is awesome. And then I'm going to make sure a return is valid data. Okay, so it's going to return whatever this is. And now the only problem I've got now is how do I deal, or how did they deal with this thing if it blew up? Oh, I know how they did. Okay, yeah, okay. Good. Very smart. All right, so what's going on here is that Boolean, it's true, goes through this stuff. Now I want to show you this. Instead, this is the logical error that's been bothering me for a bit. The text message is constantly being overwritten. I'm going to change it so that instead of being overwritten, it gets added to. Okay, it gets added to. And then what I might do here is also what I'm adding to this thing, I might want to start using some concatenations here. So sure. So that's going to return an error message. I'm going to basically say, hey, let's add a new line. Okay, let's add a new line. Over here, I'm going to say, let's add a new line. And I'm not going to bother adding a new line at the end, right? So, all right. So with that, okay, and what's mad? You're mad at me because updating type method will prevent the debugs. Oh, geez, Louise. Would you shut your programs down? Anyway, all right, so there it is. Good. All right, good. I like this. This is good. So what I'm going to do up here, I'm going to basically say if not valid, Okay, I wait, there's the backspace. Oh, you're just gonna make me pay for this. All I wanted to do was to try to do that IntelliSense thing. There it is. That was a long way to go for that. Anyways, if it's not valid, then can you? Ooh. Message box. Okay, message box, and it's going to be show. But now the question is, what is it going to show? And I'm realizing that this guy here is just going to return Boolean. This string doesn't exist outside of the scope of this string is only inside of the inside of the error here. I see what they're doing. Okay. All right. I see what they're doing. Okay, so at this point, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say if it's not valid, I'm going to basically say, yuck, this didn't work. Okay. And then over here, instead of doing a message box every single time, we're going to do a little if here. I'm going to say if the test message, if the text message, sorry, is not nothing, so you found something, right? Let's put the parentheses in here. If the test message is not nothing, indicating that there was a problem, then I'd like you to show the message. And while you're at it, is valid data is now assigned false because it's not valid. All right, so we go through here, we go through the gauntlet. We basically test this guy to see if he's decimal. We test this guy to see if he's decimal. We test this guy to see if he's whatever, right? And each one of these things, if they're not the case, it's going to start building the test, the message, right? And the message, which itself starts off being assigned, in theory, nothing. Then if we did catch something, we're going to show the actual message, and then we're going to basically say that the thing's not valid. All right. And then, by the way, this last guy isn't necessary. All right. So cool beans. Let's run it. We're not quite done yet, but we're getting close. And then at the end, by the way, if it's not valid, it's going to go yuck. So let's just go through this. And let's, again, clean run first. Okay, I made a mistake there. All right. That was interesting what happened there. So let me, I obviously haven't quite solved my problem. Cool, let's go exit. Somebody is not returning what I want it to return. So must be valid decimal. True. That first pop-up is obviously the thing that's killing me. So let's just, in a minute, we might actually, I might pause and then run through a debug on my own and then come back and show you guys in the debug. But let's just see. If not decimal, that's right. If not that, and all right, I'm going to pause. That was a doofus mistake. I've undone most of that mistake, but I left one in here. When I basically said here that the string test message is this plus this, right? And you'll remember that there used to be a /n here, here, and here. Then yeah, the test message isn't empty. It's got these new lines. So what I ended up doing is I moved the new lines, as they should have been anyway, at the end of each of these error messages.